Welcome back. I'm here with the QC Sportsnet boys, Grant Dahlstrom and Joe Winkle. It was a busy week for a lot of the Western Big Six teams. Moline hosted their Brick House Classic tournament. UT was playing there, and of course Moline hosted. And both teams going 500, 1-1. Wins over DeKalb for Moline and Batavia for UT, and then losses to East Peoria for UT and lost to Metamora for Moline. Since you guys are both here, you guys are both the voices, you guys were there Saturday and Monday, what stood out from those games?
Well, it's kind of a bit flipped for vibes for both days. Saturday, so Friday just going backtracking a bit, Friday for Moline against Quincy, really handling business, blowout win, which was good. Saturday they come in against DeKalb, bit of a rough game. DeKalb's a tough team. We all know Mike Reynolds. We know what his teams are like. We know what those playing styles are. So that was a game against a Mike Reynolds coach team.
That was a tough shooting night to start out for the Maroons.
It was a slog. It was a rock fight. They were able to kind of steal one. You know, they make a good defensive play late. Josh Hendricks. They had never gotten over the hump throughout the game. Then they finally got over the hump. And then DeKalb made a nice little burst right near the end of the game when Moline's offense kind of went, ice cold. And then DeKalb had them, but Moline made a nice play. Josh Hendricks made a good play. Brady Welch got an and one, and they were able to just kind of seal it with free throws. UT, on the other hand, complete opposite. They really had the game against East Peoria feeling good. They never had, it wasn't like they were up 15 or 20. They're up 7 in the middle of the second quarter. And then East Peoria, who's got one of the best players in the entire state, in Quentin Kitt, who's a 4-star junior, he is going to Illinois. He absolutely took the game over and scored 11 points in about 70 seconds. And UT just never woke back up. They went from up 7 to down 4 going into the half, and they kind of came out in the third, not acting like the game was over, but you could just kind of tell they were rattled and they never recovered. So both teams in that aspect, different vibes than what you saw on Monday. UT, it seemed like Monday really getting a much-needed win, and Moline just kind of never got out from behind the eight ball.
Yeah, for sure. Tale of two halves for the Panthers on Saturday. A win on Saturday as well for the Maroons that they had to fight through. So on Monday they were turning the page. UT was playing a Batavia team that sees some good competition and has a couple of good wins on the season. They were a couple games over 500. And, man, both teams really struggled offensively the entire night. There were only 68 combined points in that game. But I think Batavia's struggles were more because of what UT's defense was doing pressure-wise, and they were forcing some of these turnovers that Batavia was committing. That helped the Panthers get another big night from Javon McDowell, who really stepped up over the weekend. The Panthers are without Leo Sim, who has been kind of one of their guys who has stepped up to good at passing the basketball, good at rebounding. He's only 5'9", but he does a lot of good things as a junior for the Panthers. But he was injured this weekend, so Javon McDowell, another young guy, has stepped up for them. He has scored the rock a couple times, and he had 29 points over those 3 games on the weekend. He was big in that Batavia game. Also some more good contributions from Joe Morrow and Octavius Hickman, who I think also with Leo Sim out of the lineup, that's one less guy the Panthers have. But overall, they're a deep team, and so they've been able to rely on Joe Morrow and Octavius Hickman. Both guys standing over 6 foot 6 feet tall, 6 foot 6 inches tall. So they have some of that height that they utilized against Batavia. They only scored 38 points in the game, but I think they were able to really grind out that win, and it was a good one. And then for Moline in that game against Metamora, the Redbirds also a team that plays some unbelievable competition. They played a team from California in the opening week of the season, one from out in the East Coast as well. So they really see them from all over the board. And Metamora is a really well-coached team as well, one with a lot of great winning history, just like the Maroons. So it was an intriguing matchup coming out, but the Redbirds had the advantage off the jump. They caught the Maroons kind of off guard right away. Moline struggled to adjust to the defensive side of the floor all night long. And then kind of the way the game was going, we saw it all boil over in the fourth quarter, and Moline cut the deficit to 10 in a game that they were down double digits for most of the night. They had hit a 3. You felt like they were getting back into the game. Then Metamora goes on a 10-0 run over the next in probably only about a minute or so.
Yeah.
And completely took it back and put it away. So it was a frustrating loss for Moline. We saw Sean Taylor get a technical, plenty of frustrations from Moline players as well. But again, it's a really good Metamora team that not many teams are able to kind of play with that style up against. And Moline still got another great night from Brady Welch, so there are those little pieces in there. But overall, a night in which they struggled.
That's what I saw with UT playing through those bigs. That could be a big advantage for them.
Definitely. It wasn't something, I think we've talked about this before. Coming into this season, we knew that Joe Moore would get some elevated minutes. We knew that Octavius Hickman, who has been a consistent varsity guy for the last couple of years, at least myself, kind of expected them to go to those two on the floor at the same time quite often and utilize that height. But I think we've seen a lot of switching with them over the first couple months of the season. But now with, as we said, Leo Sim down, now that's one less guy you play with. So I think they've kind of mixed up the looks a little bit. And I think it's played to their advantage.
No one's hotter than Rock Island right now, too. 5 wins in a row since their loss to Dunlap. What stood out with the Rocks on this win streak?
They made some lineup changes. They've moved 2 of their starters to the bench. They've put some bench guys into the starting lineup. Jeremiah Jameson's been a guy that has been getting some more run for them. Arthur Abbey coming off the bench now, and it seems like it's maybe giving them some different looks in different aspects. They're going to continue to get things ramped up as we continue to go along here. But they've been able to handle their competition. They've had some get right spots since the loss to Dunlap, and but they've handled them incredibly well, keeping teams at arm's length. Obviously, the most impressive one was being able to get off the deck. I believe it was last Tuesday that went over UT, which was a big one for the league standings for them. So they're playing well, and they've been able to navigate this part of their schedule since that Dunlap loss.
Big rivalry on Friday night coming up at Warden. We have UT going to Moline.
Bit of a big game, just a little.
A little bit, just So how do we see these teams pairing up against each other?
There's a lot of lore between these two programs, and it's crazy to think. I can't remember, honestly, and I'm not trying to put my recency bias cap on, but I can't remember a bigger regular season game, at least this late into the season, between these two that had this much stakes. I know these two teams have been roadblocks in the other team winning a league championship or being in the way. Like in 2016, UT had the chance to clinch an outright conference title. Moline came in there with Deontay Billups and company to stop Trey Buchanan and them and company of winning an outright league title. In 2016, 2018 it was, or 2018 or 2019, I believe, or 2019, that's what year it was. Moline won the outright league title on the Panthers' home floor by beating them late in the regular season. This obviously isn't going to decide a league championship. However, it's kind of win or go home for UT. Not literally, but in the league standing sense. If Moline wins, then they'll be 3 games back, and you would need, considering it seems like with all due respect, there's been a considered gap from Moline, Rock Island, United Township to the field this season. Being 3 games back with only 6 to go would be a huge disadvantage for the Panthers. This game, we were both there. The first game was not the prettiest game in the world, 40-37.
One way to put it.
Yeah, it was a blindfolded boxing match. And they started by facing the opposite way in the corners. So they had to not just fight out of the corners, they had to start, they had to navigate. That was a good analogy I just thought of. Anywho,
Yeah, good one.
I expect the game to be a bit different, maybe a little more up and down. There are some differences. I think Moline doing some different things than they were in that first matchup. UT as well now, obviously, without Leo Sim. They add Javon McDowell into the starting 5. I think he could do some things. I wouldn't be shocked if they put him on Brady Welch to start the game, though I probably expect it to be. It can be any of the other. You start Octavius, they got 4 other guys. It can be any of them. They play really good defense. So I'm intrigued to see, the different avenues and paths that this matchup takes, and obviously a must-win for UT, but also a must-win for Moline just for the fact, obviously you want to win it, but they haven't played their best for a few weeks. They haven't had their fastball. I think The Galesburg game, I thought they looked good, but the game was obviously kind of an atrocity because there was, I think they just called another technical foul on the Galesburg coach. Shout out to Coach Steele. That was a weird game. I'd never seen a coach get 3 technical fouls in 7 seconds. That was pretty crazy.
That's impressive, yeah.
It was something. Just that game as a whole was just covered in mud. So it was a weird one. And obviously the Quincy game, they held Quincy underwater for 32 minutes and just never let them up. So, but I think they were just able to overwhelm them. This is obviously a different matchup. Going to be hard for them to just overwhelm UT. And in the first meeting, Moline was able to make UT beat themselves a lot. They were able to do things, whether it was pack the paint and force them to shoot, and UT was in a cold spell shooting at the beginning of the season, and
Now
they've been in a
in.
massive cold spell shooting here as of late. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think, they were able to put them in spots to where they turn the ball over a bunch, and I think that's kind of the path that Moline wants to go with, but obviously have a little more offensive oomph to their game than we saw in the first meeting.
What was it Saturday? Was it like 4 field goals or 5 field goals in the first half
For
Moline?
against DeKalb?
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot. I think I think it was
a lot of
5.
fouls, though.
Yeah,
They make a lot of free
you're
throws.
right. I was trying to remember because I remember you said that earlier. I was trying to remember. Yeah, they made 5 first half field goals, but they were only down like 2 because they shot 12 free throws in the second quarter. So, yeah, that was definitely a help for them in that Saturday game.
I think what you just said for what UT kind of needs to do in this game was exactly what I was thinking. They aren't going to be able to trade the threes that Moline's going to make. Moline will probably make 5, 6, 7 threes in the game, and they shoot a lot of them. UT has made 1 3 over their last 2 games. I think somewhere around 3 over their last 4. Something in there, and it's definitely been a cold spell. So they're not going to go back and forth. They're going to rely on Joe Mora. They're going to rely on Octavius Hickman, another team that they have a big size advantage over in Moline. So I don't think UT they can't get caught up in what Moline's kind of trying to force them into do. They need to protect the basketball. They need to believe in their game plan coming in, which is going to be much different than the game that Moline plays. So that's what the Panthers got to do.
I think the huge key in this one, the first game, is Moline. That first meeting was when UT was starting Octavius and Joe, and Moline rendered both of them like not just useless, but less than useless. They played both of them off the floor. Like it was crunch time, and I know Octavius was more for foul trouble, and Joe was just to get matchups, but they the majority of the second half. I mean, they have a lineup. They want to put 2 6'8", 6'7", 6'8" guys out there, and Moline made them play neither. So that's a huge thing that I'm interested in seeing is can Octavius, can Joe impose their will? Moline hasn't really allowed a team. They've been bothered by bigger, more athletic teams, but there hasn't been a team that has had a big guy or a bigger player that's just been like, I'm gonna get you because I'm a bigger guy than you. Does that make sense? They haven't been beat by a team. They're just throwing the ball inside and they're living at the front of the cup. So I'm going to be interested. Can UT do that? I think Moline's going to do everything in their power to take that away and make other guys beat you. But that's going to be the interesting roller coaster of this game. And it's been weird in these matchups. I mean, Moline's won at home against UT, I think 10 or 11 straight years. But the last 2 years, and it was the 2 that you've been a part of, UT has given, outside of the regional there last year, UT's given Moline everything they can handle and then some. They went to OT a couple years ago, and the only reason it went to OT was because of a tip-in layup at the buzzer from Moline. And then last year, UT ended a 7 or 8 year drought against the Maroons by beating them at Wharton Fieldhouse to close the regular season. So for some reason, they've been able to play them better on the road than at home. So it's a fascinating game and an important one because Moline needs it to set themselves up to where even if they drop one game the remainder of the regular season, they can still win the league, whether it's a share or if someone else loses a game. But if UT wins, then all of a sudden they still control their own destiny in the conference. So it's a massive 32 minutes at least we have on Friday night.
And Moline has Rocky the following week.
Exactly.
Which
Yeah.
if they would lose to UT, that would definitely ramp up the stakes of that one too.
Yes, I think if you gave Mark Polite truth serum, I think he's a Panther. He's back. He's busting out the orange and black that he wore about 15 years ago on Friday night, hoping that he has a chance to take an outright conference lead next Friday.
Big time games ahead for the standings. And you talk about Rock Island. How do they get 6 in a row against Quincy going there?
Well, for them, they got to do what what Quincy had happen to them on Friday against Moline, which is what Rocky has done all season, and that's just overwhelm you. Now, for Quincy, I do think they kind of got beaten by the young. They are incredibly young. I feel like saying they're young is like an insult to saying how young someone is, because it's literally like, I'm not calling them a JV team because they're better than JV players, but it's basically like they have Whit Merrifield is a guy who was a senior last year. He was like their 7th or 8th guy, but he just came back from injury and he didn't play. I don't think he played at all against UT the Friday before because he wasn't back yet.
So.
And he barely played. He didn't play at all last week against Moline. And they have like maybe 1 or 2 seniors at all right now that see minutes. So it's literally like a sophomore team with freshmen called up. Like that is the equivalent of what Quincy's rolling out there every game. Some of those kids are very talented, including the big fellow Brendan Lepper, and they have some other young players that I think are really going to be something eventually. But they can get overwhelmed, and I think against Moline, they had probably their best performance and their best win of the season against Allman last Tuesday. They hammered them at home, and then maybe it's one of those hit the road. You're kind of thinking, oh, we got things figured out, and they get punched in the face, and they're down 27-2 5 minutes into the game. So it's like, not great. So it was a kind of a comeback to earth moment for them probably. The problem is against Rocky, it doesn't get any easier because we've talked all year, Grant, like no one is going to be able to make you just not be comfortable more than Rock Island does. So I feel like Rocky, the matchup is very favorable for them here. And that's nothing disparaging against Quincy. I think that's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to, they're just going to be able to lean on them. Rocky can hit a gear that Quincy just isn't able to.
Everybody enjoy the games Friday night. Big one coming up, rivalry matchup, Moline UT. We'll be back here to talk about it next week on Wednesday.